Today we're taking a look at the top 3 essential lens adapters for the Sony A6700. Sony A6700 is a great Sony camera. It's great for photography, video. It's an aps-c crop sensor camera, so it's not a full frame. But while you are losing the full frame sensor, you are gaining a smaller, more compact body, and it's just a great little powerhouse of a camera. And in today's video, we're taking a look at 3 essential lens adapters for the A6700. Lens adapters allow you to adapt vintage lenses to your modern digital camera. This is an old Nikon F-mount lens. And adapting lenses like this can be super useful, especially if you're looking for a more affordable option to mount onto your camera, or if you want that more vintage retro look. Some of these lenses have beautiful optics, create really beautiful images, and using lens adapters allows you to unlock an entire world of vintage lenses. The 3 adapters we're looking at today is our ND throttle lens adapter, our DLX stretch adapter, and our tilt rocker tilt shift adapter. First up is our ND throttle adapter. This is a lens adapter with a built-in VND filter, a variable neutral density filter. And you control the filter by turning this silver toothed ring on the adapter. And you can go from 2 all the way to 8 stops of ND filtration. And it's really nice to have a VND filter built into the adapter itself, because you can swap multiple lenses onto this adapter and you maintain that filter. That filter is just there. You don't have to put different ND filters on each lens you adapt. And VND filters are essential if you are a filmmaker, if you're shooting video with the A6700, and you want to have that extra control of the light. If you're shooting wide open with the lens and it's sunny, you can just crank in the VND filtration, cut the light coming through the lens and hitting the sensor, so you can shoot at a nice cinematic shutter speed, even in bright sunlight. Now, this is our Canon FD to Sony E ND throttle adapter, but we carry multiple versions of this adapter for various lenses to adapt to a Sony E camera. Mounting the lens on the adapter is super simple. Just make sure you've got the install arrow lined up with the red dot, then find the red dot on the lens, press it into the adapter, rotate the lens, and then rotate that install ring. Some Canon FD lenses, you actually have to rotate a ring on the lens itself. This is a newer FD, so you don't have to do that. And then mounting it on the camera, you just line up the mounting dot with the mounting dot. And just like that, we've got this beautiful Canon FD 50mm f1.8 lens adapted to our Sony A6700. And we can rotate this silver ring to go from minimum ND, which is 2 stops, all the way to 8 stops of ND filtration. And when you're shooting video with this camera outside and you're stopped wide open, you've got the lens set all the way to f1.8, it's really nice to have this VND control built into the adapter itself. You just crank in how much you need, you cut the light, and you can create beautiful footage like this. It's also nice to have ND filtration if you want to shoot a long exposure photo, if you want to add blurred motion to your photo. Bring in that ND filtration, cut the light, slow down your shutter speed, and then you can create beautiful long exposures. The second essential adapter we're looking at is our DLX stretch adapter. This is our Olympus OM to Sony E-mount DLX stretch, but we carry multiple versions of this adapter for multiple types of lenses. And this adapter works just like any other adapter, but it has a special built-in feature, and that is a macro helicoid. You just rotate this black ring on the adapter, and it actually extends the lens mount 10 millimeters farther away from your Sony's sensor. And these 10 millimeters, these extra 10 millimeters, help turn any adapted lens into a macro focusing lens. It's basically like having a macro extension tube built into your adapter. It basically gives any adapted lens that extra amount of macro control. This is our Olympus OM, so we're going to use this vintage Olympus OM lens. Just line up the red mounting dot, rotate it to lock it into place. And this lens does not have a great minimum focusing distance. Its minimum focusing distance is 1.6 meters, so you have to be pretty far away from your subject to focus on it. But by turning the macro helicoid in the DLX stretch adapter, we're extending the lens farther away from the Sony A6700's sensor, and now this lens can focus closer up. What I love most about this adapter is it turns every lens into a close focus / macro lens, and it gives you a lot more options when you're out doing photography and video. Let's say you're shooting landscapes or portraits, but then you see a beautiful flower or insect. By having this macro helicoid built into the adapter, we can just rotate it and turn any lens we're using into a close focusing lens. And all DLX stretch adapters also come with 3 drop-in ND filters. They come in this nice handy case, an ND4, an ND8, and an ND16. And these filters simply drop in the back of the adapter. They're magnets, so they just magnet into place. And this is similar to our ND throttle adapter, except these are not VND filters, so you do have to swap them out if you need different strengths. But it's really nice to have rear-mounted ND filters, and yeah, you can just drop them in. It's a great extra feature to have. The third essential adapter we're looking at today is our Tilt Rocker Tilt Shift adapter. This is probably the coolest adapter we offer here at Fotodiox because it turns any adapted lens into a tilt shift lens. This is our Nikon to Sony E tilt rocker, but we carry various versions of this adapter for various lenses. And today we're going to use this Nikkor 20mm vintage lens. It's super easy. You just line up the mounting dot on the lens with the mounting dot on the adapter, press it in, lock it into place. And we're just going to mount it on our Sony A6700. And like I said, this adapter turns any lens into a tilt shift lens. Now it only works with adapted lenses. You can't put this between a Sony E lens and a Sony E camera because the Sony E lens has to mount directly to the camera to focus to infinity. So this will only work with SLR lenses that have a longer focal flange distance. Now, if you leave the adapter just like this, it works like any adapter, but then to shift the lens, you press this silver button right here. You can shift 10mm to the left, 10mm to the right, and you can also rotate the shift. Press this little gold button here. So now we can shift the lens up and down. And shifting is great for perspective distortion correction, especially if you're using a wider lens. You can see in this photo here, we're photographing a building with this lens, pointing the lens up, and the leading lines of the building are going towards each other because this is a wide angle lens. There is some distortion. But then we just take our tilt rocker adapter, we shift the lens up just slightly. We don't have to shift it up that far. And by shifting the lens, we are now correcting the leading lines of the building and making them straighter for a more pleasing architecture photo. You can also lock the camera down on a tripod, shift left, take a photo, shift right, take a photo, and then you can stitch these two photos together for a stitched panorama. So that's pretty cool. Now I said this is a tilt shift adapter. That's true. This adapter also tilts a lens. You just loosen this gold knob on the side and you can tilt an adapted lens up to 10 degrees of tilt. You can actually see the degree markings right here. We're at 10. So you can tilt less if you want. And tilt photography is great for selective focus. If you're shooting a still life and you just want that subtle adjustment of the focal plane so you can have two subjects in focus, you can just tilt the lens slightly like so. Or you can be super drastic and you can tilt the lens all the way and you can create selective focus photos like this that have kind of a dreamy atmospheric look to them, kind of look like something out of a fantasy film or a nightmare or something. So the tilt in this adapter is great if you're shooting product or still life photography and you just need subtle focus adjustments. And it's also great if you want something more artistic, you want to tilt all the way and create selective focus photos and videos like this. Okay, that was a look at 3 essential lens adapters for the Sony A6700. Now these adapters will work on all Sony E-mount cameras, so if you don't have an A6700, you can still use these adapters on other Sony E cameras as well. Now if you have any questions about anything I said in today's video, comment below, I'd love to help you out. Plus, click the links in the description below to check out all of the adapters I talked about in today's video. Also, click right here to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get more videos just like this one.